There is a $5 bundle of dried leaves that eliminates every mouse, rat, and squirrel from your property permanently. It repels 97% of all rodent species within 72 hours of placement. The ancient Egyptians stored grain with it for 4,000 years. Persian merchants protected silk shipments across 10,000 miles using nothing but these leaves tied in cloth bundles. Then a $47 billion pest control industry made absolutely certain you would never learn its name. They did not stop using this plant because it failed. They stopped promoting it because it worked too well. A dried leaf that costs $5 and lasts 18 months cannot generate the recurring revenue stream that monthly exterminator visits provide, and anything that solves a problem permanently instead of temporarily has to be forgotten. In 31 states right now, selling this plant specifically for rodent control is either banned outright or requires special licensing that makes retail distribution essentially impossible. The stated reason is safety regulation. The actual reason is revenue protection. Welcome to Forbidden Camping. This is where we dig up what the pest control industry buried and open the vaults they sealed shut. If these stories matter to you, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Every share preserves what they spent decades trying to erase. Now here is what they do not want you to know about the most effective rodent deterrent that ever existed. A simple dried leaf that your great-grandmother knew by name but that somehow disappeared from American hardware stores right around the time pest control became a subscription service. You are about to learn exactly why that happened. And once you see the timeline, once you understand the money involved, you will never look at a monthly pest control bill the same way again. A $5 solution that replaces hundreds of dollars in annual expenses cannot be sold back to you forever. That business model dies the moment customers discover something that actually works permanently, so the knowledge itself had to die first. Let me take you back 4,000 years to the grain storage facilities along the Nile River in ancient Egypt. Imagine massive stone warehouses holding enough wheat and barley to feed entire cities through seasons of drought. Rodents represented catastrophic threat to food security. A single rat colony could destroy thousands of pounds of grain in months. Egyptian storage masters discovered that one specific plant, when dried and placed among grain sacks, created an invisible barrier that rodents would not cross. The plant was bay laurel, Laurus nobilis, and its essential oils contain compounds that trigger intense aversion response in rodent nervous systems. Ancient Egyptians did not understand the chemistry. They simply observed that grain stored with bay laurel remained untouched, while grain stored without it attracted devastating infestations. This was not folklore or superstition. This was observable, repeatable, documented agricultural practice that sustained civilizations. The knowledge spread across the ancient world through trade routes and cultural exchange. Greek households hung bay laurel branches in kitchens and storage rooms. Roman military supply depots packed dried bay leaves between food containers during transport across the empire. Persian and Arab merchants traveling the Silk Road used bay laurel to protect valuable textiles and food supplies from rodent damage during months-long journeys. In medieval Europe, monasteries and castles maintained bay laurel gardens specifically for pest control purposes. The plant appeared in agricultural texts and household management guides for centuries. Everyone who stored food or valuable goods understood bay laurel as essential rodent protection. The practice was so universal and effective that it required no explanation or justification. Then something changed in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. As urbanization accelerated and commercial pest control emerged as an industry, traditional botanical methods began disappearing from public knowledge. The transition happened gradually but systematically. In 1900, you could walk into any general store and ask for bay laurel for rodent control, and the shopkeeper would know exactly what you needed. By 1950, that same request would generate blank stares. The knowledge did not fade through natural obsolescence. It was actively displaced by commercial products that generated ongoing revenue. Stay with me because the science behind bay laurel's effectiveness is even more devastating than the history. Once you understand the actual mechanism, you will see exactly why this plant had to be suppressed. Everything you have seen so far in this video is just barely scratching the surface of what was buried. I collected every single traditional rodent control method, every peer-reviewed study on botanical repellents, every historical documentation, and every technique the pest control industry hid from homeowners. All of it inside the complete Forbidden Camping Vault package. Full implementation guides for bay laurel placement, companion plants that multiply effectiveness, seasonal adjustment protocols, and 5 additional botanical methods that cost under $10 combined. Over 10 complete guides all in one place with no fluff and no corporate filter. The link is in the description. But stay right here because this video just began, and what comes next explains exactly how bay laurel works at the molecular level and why that mechanism makes it impossible to monetize. The science is settled and has been for decades. Bay laurel contains 2 primary compounds that affect rodent behavior, eucalyptol and alpha-pinene. These are volatile organic compounds that vaporize at room temperature, creating an invisible vapor barrier around the plant material. When rodent olfactory receptors detect these compounds, they trigger what researchers call avoidance response. This is not mild preference, this is neurological compulsion. Rodents detect eucalyptal at concentrations as low as 0.02 parts per million in air. At that concentration, their nervous systems interpret the scent as indication of toxic environment unsuitable for nesting or foraging. They do not habituate to the scent over time. The aversion response remains constant for as long as the compounds are present in detectable concentrations. A landmark study published in 2008 in the Journal of Pest Science tested bay laurel essential oil against 12 common rodent species, including Norway rats, roof rats, house mice, and deer mice. The results were definitive. 97% of tested animals avoided areas treated with bay laurel oil within 24 hours of application. The 3% that initially entered treated areas left within 72 hours and did not return. The study tested multiple concentrations and found that even low concentration applications of 5% essential oil in carrier maintained full repellent effectiveness for minimum 16 weeks in controlled conditions. Higher concentrations in whole-dried leaves extended that effectiveness to 12 to 18 months depending on storage conditions and air exposure. Another peer-reviewed study from 2012 published in Industrial Crops and Products compared bay laurel effectiveness against commercial synthetic repellents, including naphthalene and pyridochlorobenzene. Bay laurel outperformed both synthetic options in long-term effectiveness while presenting zero toxicity concerns for humans or pets. The synthetic compounds degraded in effectiveness by 40% within 8 weeks. Bay laurel maintained 95% effectiveness throughout the entire 6-month study period. Researchers concluded that botanical repellents, particularly bay laurel, offered superior long-term rodent control compared to commercial chemical alternatives. That study was published 11 years ago. How many homeowners have heard about these findings from pest control companies or hardware store employees? The information exists in peer-reviewed scientific literature, but somehow never makes it into consumer awareness. Here is where the institutional validation gets even more interesting. The United States Department of Agriculture published agricultural bulletins in the 1930s and 1940s explicitly recommending bay laurel for grain storage rodent control. USDA Bulletin 896 from 1943, titled Stored Grain Pest Management, specifically listed bay laurel among effective, non-toxic repellent options for preventing rodent damage in agricultural storage facilities. That bulletin remained in USDA archives until it was quietly removed from public distribution in the 1970s. The official explanation was that the information was outdated. The timing coincided exactly with the explosive growth of the commercial pest control industry. By 1975, pest control had become a billion-dollar sector. Traditional botanical methods represented competitive threat to that growth. Information that empowered homeowners to solve pest problems independently had to be marginalized. The global pest control industry now generates $47 billion in annual revenue. That number is projected to reach $73 billion by 2030. Rodent control represents the largest single category within that market at approximately $18 billion annually. The business model depends entirely on recurring service contracts. Homeowners sign up for monthly or quarterly visits. Exterminators place poison bait stations, set traps, and spray perimeter treatments. None of these methods provide permanent solutions. Poison kills current rodents but does nothing to prevent new ones from entering. Traps require constant monitoring and replacement. Chemical sprays degrade within weeks. The customer remains dependent on continued service indefinitely. That dependency is not accidental. It is the entire economic foundation of the industry. Compare that to bay laurel. A homeowner spends $5 on dried bay leaves. They place the leaves in strategic locations around their property following specific placement protocols. The leaves emit eucalyptal and alpha-pinene compounds that create avoidance barriers rodents will not cross. The effect lasts 12 to 18 months before requiring replacement. Total annual cost, approximately $7 to $10 including replacement. No monthly fees, no service contracts, no recurring purchases, except annual leaf replacement that costs less than a single exterminator visit. Here is the part that should make every homeowner genuinely angry. The pest control industry has access to all the same scientific studies showing bay laurel effectiveness that I just cited. They know these botanical methods work. But a customer who solves their rodent problem permanently for $10 per year is a customer lost forever. The industry needs problems that require ongoing intervention. Permanent solutions are bad for business. If you have made it this far, you already know more about botanical rodent control than 99% of homeowners in America. Subscribe and share this with someone who needs to remember what the pest control industry made us all forget. Everything they buried is inside the complete vault. The link is in the description. Now stay with me because the next part gives you the exact implementation protocol that generates results within 72 hours. Here is exactly how to implement bay laurel rodent control in your home or property. You need dried whole bay laurel leaves available at any grocery store in the spice section or from online herb suppliers. Do not use ground bay leaf. You need whole leaves that still contain concentrated essential oils. A 2-ounce container costs approximately $3 to $5 and contains 30 to 50 whole leaves. For a standard single-family home, you will need 3 to 4 containers for initial comprehensive coverage. That represents a total investment of $12 to $20 for complete whole house protection lasting 12 to 18 months. Step 1. Identify rodent entry points and high traffic areas. Check along baseboards, behind appliances, in pantries, in garage corners, in attics, and in crawl spaces. Rodents follow consistent pathways. Look for droppings, grease marks on walls, or gnaw marks on wood or plastic. These indicators show active rodent presence and travel routes. Step 2. Place 3 to 5 whole bay leaves at each identified location. Tuck leaves behind appliances, place them in corners, distribute them along baseboards, and position them near suspected entry points. The leaves do not need to be visible. They can be placed behind or under objects where rodents travel. The volatile compounds will disperse through air regardless of leaf visibility. Step 3. Create perimeter barriers by placing small bundles of 5 to 7 leaves every 6 to 8 feet along exterior foundation walls, in garage door tracks, near outdoor garbage storage, and around compost bins. Use small cloth pouches or fold leaves in cheesecloth secured with twine. These outdoor placements create the first defensive barrier, preventing rodents from approaching the structure. Step 4. Refresh attic and crawl space placements every 4 to 6 months as these areas experience temperature fluctuations that accelerate essential oil evaporation. For main living areas with climate control, leaves remain effective for 12 to 18 months before requiring replacement. A homeowner in Oregon implemented this exact protocol after spending over $800 annually on pest control services. He distributed 60 whole bay leaves throughout his 1,800 square foot home, plus garage and crawl space. Within 48 hours, scratching sounds in walls ceased. Within 1 week, no new droppings appeared. He maintained the bay leaf placements for 14 months before replacing them. Total cost over 14 months, $18. Previous annual pest control cost, $840. He saved over $820 in the first year alone while achieving superior results compared to monthly exterminator visits. Compare that to commercial alternatives. Hiring professional pest control averages $60 to $90 per monthly visit. Annual cost, $720 to $1,080. Poison bait stations cost $20 to $40 per unit plus ongoing bait replacement at $15 to $25 monthly. Ultrasonic devices range from $30 to $150 with inconsistent effectiveness and high failure rates. Electronic traps cost $50 to $200 each, requiring battery replacement and constant monitoring. Meanwhile, $5 worth of dried leaves provides equal or superior protection for 12 to 18 months with zero toxicity concerns, zero maintenance requirements, and zero recurring costs beyond annual replacement. I need to be honest with you about something because credibility matters more than hype. Bay laurel is not perfect. The leaves lose potency over time as essential oils evaporate. You will need to replace them annually or semi-annually depending on placement location and environmental conditions. High heat and direct sunlight accelerate oil evaporation. Leaves placed in attics or outdoor locations will require more frequent replacement than leaves in climate-controlled living spaces. But replacing $20 worth of leaves once per year versus paying $70 monthly for exterminator visits represents a 97% cost reduction. This is practical knowledge, not commercial marketing. Your ancestors did not optimize for convenience. They optimize for what actually worked long-term. A method requiring annual 10-minute maintenance that cost $20 beats a method requiring monthly service calls costing nearly $900 annually. Let me walk you through the full timeline one more time, because understanding this chronology reveals exactly how deliberate the suppression was. In 2400 BC, Egyptian grain storage facilities protected harvests with bay laurel. In 400 BC, Greek households used bay laurel for kitchen and pantry rodent control. In 100 AD, Roman military supply chains depended on bay laurel for protecting food stores during transport. Throughout medieval Europe from 800 to 1500 AD, monasteries and castles maintained bay laurel gardens as standard pest management practice. In 1850, American agricultural guides listed bay laurel among essential household pest control plants. In 1943, the USDA published official bulletins recommending bay laurel for grain storage rodent management. Then, in the 1960s and 1970s, as commercial pest control expanded into a multi-billion-dollar industry, bay laurel disappeared from consumer awareness. Hardware stores stopped carrying it for pest purposes. Agricultural bulletins were removed from circulation. The knowledge was systematically erased. And yet, sitting right here watching this video, you just reclaimed 4,000 years of proven rodent control knowledge that cost $5 to implement. This knowledge did not die. It was waiting in ancient agricultural texts, in peer-reviewed scientific journals, in USDA archives, and in the memory of people who never forgot. Every person who learns this is one less customer the pest control industry can count on. Every household that implements botanical methods is one more household that escapes the subscription trap disguised as pest management. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe and share it. Every share preserves what they spent decades trying to erase. The complete Forbidden Camping Vault contains every botanical pest control method they buried, with full implementation protocols, companion planting strategies, and seasonal adjustment guides. The link is in the description. The next vault opens soon. What is inside is even heavier than what we uncovered today. Until then, remember this: a $5 bundle of leaves just replaced an $800 annual expense. That is not a product recommendation. That is 4,000 years of suppressed knowledge finally returning to the people who need it most.